Today is day 2 of the 18th Lok Sabha. It's going to be an exciting day ahead. Let me also tell you what really happened yesterday, first day of the 18th Lok Sabha. The Prime Minister set the context by saying that the country needs, communication, country needs dialogue, country needs substance and not slogans. And of course, he invoked the emergency and all that the country went through during the emergency, the clampdown on freedom of speech, the kind of imprisonment that many political leaders saw. Remember that many leaders of the BJP emerged from the anti-emergency protests, including Narendra Modi. Mr. Narendra Modi, the Prime Minister himself, went through a lot during emergency. So ideologically, politically, this is an important day for the party. In fact, the president of the party, JP Nadda, will be sort of like hosting a grand event at 12:30 to talk about the problems that the country underwent. But of course, it's an important day as far as Parliament is concerned. By noon today, the nominations of the Lok Sabha Speaker have to be filled in. So basically, we'll get to know by evening as to who the Speaker could be. If continuity has been a key word of this government, Modi 3.0, it will be interesting if Om Birla, a three-term MP from Kota, Rajasthan, will be repeated as the Speaker. Who are the other names that are doing rounds? Well, of course, Mr. Mahtab is there, Miss Purandeshwari's name has been doing round. But then, this is Narendra Modi's BJP, and speculating is completely futile because in the last few years, we have seen people who have not been at the forefront, people who have not been in the spotlight of things, making it to big positions, including Bhajanlal Sharma or Vishnu Dev Sai, or for that matter, even Mohan Yadav. So clearly, there is a lot of waiting to do. But of course, today is an important day, and we'll also get to know who the leader of opposition could be. The Congress party would actually be appointing Mr. Rahul Gandhi. If Rahul Gandhi is up to that, up to taking up that challenge, which will be interesting. And of course, who the deputy speaker would be. What we know is that the pro-term speaker will be thanked after the election tomorrow. The election is going to take place tomorrow. And to discuss all of this, the consequences, the political consequences of the electoral, play out around the Speaker's election. We have with us Shaina NC, who represents the BJP. We also have Desh Ratan Nigam, who is a political analyst. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And Sanjay Jha, who also is a political analyst. Thank you so much for joining us, all of you. To you, Mr. Jha, first, when the BJP is talking about emergency again, and I know this is something that happens every year, but this time there is a reinforcement of sorts, because yesterday we saw this protest that the opposition led with the Constitution, with a copy of the Constitution in their hands. And of course, the optics of Akhilesh Yadav sitting with Avdesh Prasad from Ayodhya, Dalit candidate who actually, led a shocking defeat to the BJP. And of course, Rahul Gandhi sitting with K. Suresh. The optics yesterday were very, in some ways had a lot of political undertones to them. What do you think, what kind of impact does these anti-emergency protests by the BJP, led by the Prime Minister himself, have on the morale of the opposition and, for that matter, even on the country?
Vasudha, good morning, and to my fellow panelists, both Desh Ratanji and Shaina. The truth is that the people of India, if you look at the verdict of 2024 general elections, have seen through this entire attempt by Mr. Modi's government to bamboozle the ordinary Indian. If there has been actually an undeclared emergency for the last 120 months, Mr. Modi needs to be credited with that. Mrs. Gandhi had an emergency that was official. It was declared. I mean, you can criticize it for all one can possibly agree or disagree with, but it lasted 21 months. What you've seen under Mr. Modi is 120 months of an unofficial, undeclared emergency. And the worst part about it has been done in a very stealthy, surreptitious and a very slimy manner, which is why all over the world, people are worried about India's civil liberties, the attack on mainstream media, on think tanks, on intellectuals and authors and even film stars. And eventually, if you look at the way the opposition leaders have been put in jail, including Arvind Kejriwal and Hemant Soren, the destruction of institutions, of CBI, ED, Income Tax, Election Commission, threats to different levels of even judiciary. So you look at Mr. Modi's 10 years and you have to call it as the darkest period, the darkest and the most grim period of India's political and parliamentary history. That's it. That's a hard fact.
Right. Shaina NC of the BJP, would you like to respond to that, ma'am? Because clearly, some of the things that he's saying is very critical. Also, the electoral results seem to have shown that there is a large population in the country that seems to be, listening to the opposition's narrative. This is a concern for your party, isn't it?
Vasudha, of course I would like to respond. I mean, Sanjay, my dear friend, chooses not to opine on the fact that history has been created. Post 1962, you've had no prime minister who has come to power thrice. And 240 is not some ordinary number. Having said that, it's a verdict, the mandate of the people, and the verdict and mandate of the people is that for the NDA and the Bharatiya Janata Party. Cut to what is he talking about? 10 years of reform, 10 years of progressive governance, 10 years of Bharat from number 11 as an economy to number 5 heading towards the third largest economy. 10 years of people being empowered through healthcare, sensible security, education. The sky is the limit in terms of progressive narrative, which one has seen during the regime of the Bharatiya Janata Party and which will continue to be the thought process of our Pradhan Sevak, which is nation first, party next, individual last. Cut to, you talk about emergency. Please, the emergency that we saw during the Congress was that of a complete blackout. Here you have set the narrative to say, oh, the constitution is at threat, when out of the 160 times, six times that the constitution has been amended, 80 times it has been amended by the Congress party. So what emergency are you talking about? When the Bharatiya Janata Party has made amendments, it is for progressive reforms like triple tarak, Nari Shakti Vandan, abrogation of 370, CAA, and so on and so forth.
Right.
So what dark days are you talking about? And this narrative about exit polls, narrative about EVMs, narrative about country being in threat are all figments of imagination of the opposition. That's all I'd like to say.
Right. Okay. Saravanan sir of the TMK, thank you so much for joining the show. Yesterday, we saw this, saw JP Nadda, the president of the BJP, send out a letter to Mr. Kharge talking about what happened in Kalaikuchi. I know that there is always politics that plays out when it comes to prohibition and, of course, alcohol. But, your party, DMK, has been also ruling the state for 2 terms. Do you think that the DMK could have done a better job at sort of, cracking down on this illegal liquor mafia, something that wouldn't have given the BJP an opportunity to sort of like target the DMK?
Yeah, see, I'll come to this liquor tragedy in a bit. The BJP spokesperson was talking about the last 10 years. The biggest irony is, even after the Vishwaguru ruling our country, they are not even able to conduct an examination without a paper leak. Imagine the plight of the students. 50 lakh students are affected in the 4 examinations that has come to our light, and there is strong evidence. Everything is there in the public domain that NEET, UG, MBBS examinations are also leaked, and the government is clueless. They don't know what to do. They are directionless. Nobody is offering solace to the students. Nobody comes out and says why this has happened. And they call that the 10 years great rule.
The kind of arrests that have taken place, sir.
Yeah, see, we know about the arrest. I'm talking about what have you done to the students. Is there any information there on the public domain? They made a big thing. Oh, the Mr. Pradhan is giving a press conference. It was much tom-tom. And what after the press conference? Were the students any better after the press conference? See, the last 10 years are the most darkest periods.
But Mr. Saravanan, 58 deaths in Tamil Nadu is also a big number, isn't it? So that's something that is also a cause of worry for the party.
Yes, it is a cause of worry. No doubt about that. See, you are talking about when they say that there is the last 10 years they did that, they did this. The biggest thing in the last 10 years, the kind of hatred the BJP has generated. In the last 10 years, tell me how many mob lynching has taken place in the name of beef eating. Has that ever been the case in the last 70 years? The kind of hatred, the way the media has been playing to the BJP, and not respond, not resonating the voice of the common man. So all these are there. This is the darkest 10 years in India's history, and we cannot just brush aside. They said, oh, people have given them a historic mandate, third mandate. There is no celebrations. We can't even see a smile on the face of the Prime Minister. We are happy that arrogance is gone from at least the body language, but the actions of the BJP leaders, the way they are maintaining, they are doing the same things what they have done in the last 10 years, it's not going to augur well for the BJP. They have to make amends. They have to change the way they are moving.
Okay.
Without consensus.
Let me get a comment from Deshratan Nigam. Yes, sir. Yes, Mr. Nigam, thank you for patiently waiting and hearing out these voices. Mr. Nigam, when it comes to the Speaker's election, most of the times we've not seen any contest. I was reading about this, and since the time of Mr. Malvankar, we've not really seen a contest when it comes to Speaker's position. And do you see, that changing with respect to the present Lok Sabha? Of course, the opposition does not have the numbers, but how is the Speaker's role going to be different this time? Of course, the numbers are different. BJP doesn't have the absolute majority that it had in 2014, 2019. So clearly the Speaker has to be somebody who has the trust of the Prime Minister, the Home Minister, somebody who's experienced in handling a house like this, isn't it?
Well, Vasudha, in fact, let me first answer about pro tem Speaker. The convention is that the person, the MP elected, who has the longest period of unbroken membership of the Parliament, Lok Sabha. And therefore, the present Mr. Mahtab is the person who's got the 7-time MP unbroken record, whereas Mr. Suresh of the Congress lost in 2004 and 1998. So that as per the convention, this is the correct and the right position. The concerned person has been duly appointed by the President. And secondly, the Speaker's role is, I think, will be quite crucial this time, given the fact that Congress and the opposition have done slightly better than what they had done last time. So, but the Congress and the opposition must understand the elections are over now. And the constructive opposition must start in the Parliament. It is not about walking out. It is not just waving the Constitution, especially when the small little book of the Constitution which they were waving was still wrapped in the polythene. It was not even opened by the members, which was quite surprising. I think they should have opened and read it. And this is not about walking out. This is about passing the bills. This is about constructive discussion. And the Congress and the opposition have to reinvent themselves. And that, clear, destructive politics will not do. And India is at a very crucial stage, on the way to become a third largest economy, and the role of the opposition becomes very important. This is not about emergency and all. This is all, hyperboles which people are talking about. And that election rhetoric is over now. I think we should be getting in the mode of governance and passing bills, which is absolutely necessary.
Well said.
And reinvention of the Congress and the opposition is absolutely necessary right now.
Very well said.
Now, that's very important. Sumant Raman, Mr. Nigam is pointing out to something very important, which I agree with, because, emergency was, it happened in 1975. Many of us were not even born then. So, clearly the optics of it, that's been playing out since yesterday, when you see the BJP being blamed for violating the constitution, the opposition leading a protest, the BJP blaming the DMK for the Kallaikurchi Hooch tragedy. So, there's a lot of blame game when it comes to, these tragedies. And of course, BJP being blamed, of course, and rightly so, for the NEET crisis as well. But similarly, DMK government also, needs to be held accountable. And I'm sure state governments are also taking the kind of steps that need to be taken. So tell us, how do you see the political play out when it comes to controversies, be it Hooch, be it NEET controversy, or the Speaker's pro tem? Is there a lot of politicking that's going on?
Yeah, first of all, I think this harking back to the emergency is not going to get the BJP any dividends. As you rightly said, most of the country was not born at that point of time. So it's not going to get them a kind of emotional connect that they could have hoped for. It's not going to happen. So I think that the last few months have not been very good for the BJP. They've had misstep after misstep. First of all, starting with the 400 par, which backfired big time. And subsequently, post-election, there's been the rail tragedy, the Kanchenjunga Express issue. Then there's been the NEET fiasco, and the fiasco with the NET exam, and the PG NEET, and so on. So I think that they are under a lot of pressure. And I think as far as the speaker is concerned, they would be looking for a yes man who can, succeed or top what Mr. Om Birla did in the 17th Lok Sabha. So I think that is not going to go down very well with the opposition. And at the end of the day, the fact remains that the party does not have a majority. And so the days of the 17th Lok Sabha, where you could ride roughshod over everything, you could pass bills in 3 minutes without any discussion, I think those days are behind us. So the choice before the BJP is clear. Reach out to the opposition, be more accommodative, have consensus, have debate, and try to get things done. Or if you try the earlier strategy, which you have tried successfully in 2014, but even more successfully in 2019, that is simply not going to happen. And I think that as far as the Prime Minister himself is concerned, there is a certain diminution of stature. I think that everybody can see that, not just in the body language that Mr. Saravanan alluded to, but there is a fact that there is a diminution of stature simply because the numbers simply don't give him a mandate to do exactly what he pleases. He's now got to consult his allies, he's got to create consensus, a whole lot of other things are there. So I think it's not going to be easy, and I think it's up to the opposition to keep up this momentum. People are now talking about these exams. Yes, the DMK government has failed in preventing Kallakuchi. No questions about it.
Although I agree that there is a resurgent aggressive opposition, but BJP has 240. It's still the dominant party in the Lok Sabha. So clearly the numbers do speak for themselves. Shaina, do you think you heard Sumant Raman and also Mr. Nigam out? Do you think there could be a setback to the governance agenda that the BJP has? Because now, when it comes to passing of bills, there'll be far more voices of protest. There'll be far more resistance. Do you think that will be a setback to the kind of commitments that the party has made ideologically, politically, and even in terms of governance?
Absolutely not, Vasudha. I tell you with full conviction that Prime Minister Modi and the NDA is committed to a Viksit Bharat. That is the only agenda. And with saying that, all eyes on the speaker and what is going to happen in Parliament, I would only want to say this is such a crucial time for the opposition to be a progressive opposition and not a destructive opposition. You look at the narrative you talk about during the elections. Do you know the Prime Minister was abused 150 times without getting into rhetoric of who said what? I think the time has come for us to speak up unequivocally on issues that matter and not just have dharnas and all kinds of walkouts and trying to disrupt the beauty of a democracy called Parliament. And please do not forget, 240 is not some small number. Even if you cumulatively add the Congress's performance in 3 past general elections, you do not pass that number. You consolidate the entire Indi Gathbandhan and it does not add up to that number. So in a democracy, victory and defeat is imminent and accepted with grace. We need to work collectively with the consciousness for a better India, and that is the only agenda of the Bharatiya Janata Party and the NDA. So for all these critics who are only
Mr.
trying
Shah, you
to
had a point, and before that I would like to ask you about this particular thing called obstruction. Arun Jaitley had a different view to that, and he used to say that was part of, part of politics, and in fact it's a pivotal part of politics. In fact, P. Chidambaram wrote day before yesterday saying that, it's also time for Congress to talk about and think about all the promises that it made in its manifesto, which also focused a lot on Parliament, the kind of agenda that needs to sort of, accommodate the opposition's viewpoint as well. But, how can a dialogue be established when we live in such polarizing times? As a reporter, I do see in the Parliament that there is very little cordiality. Only amongst some ministers do actually, people talk amongst each other, amongst party lines. But there are these clear-cut fault lines which will be difficult to breach when it comes to, at least the beginning of a dialogue.
Is that question to me, Vasudha?
Yes, Mr. Shah.
Yeah. So my short answer will be that, frankly, Vasudha, if you think about it, this government has always been politically extremely arrogant. And I hope they have the humility and I would call at least the character to now listen to the will of the people of this country. China went on and on about the fact that they got 240, which is equal to or slightly more than the India alliance number. But the people of India know this was not a level playing field in this election. They controlled the institutions, they controlled the election commission, they had all the money, the resources, they were influencing
Sanjay,
various sections of
unlike you,
big
we
media.
haven't questioned
I did not interrupt you. I did not interrupt
We have
you.
not even
Shaina, I did
questioned.
not interrupt you.
Yeah, but
Shaina, I
respect
did
the
not interrupt
mandate.
you. Shaina, I did not interrupt you. Let me finish. So my larger point
Okay,
is
we'll let
that
him speak, Shaina, and then I'll come back to you.
this political party has leveraged a very authoritarian powers, and they have leveraged it for their electoral advantage. But there are 3 points I need to quickly make. If you look at India's preamble, it has words like secular, democratic, socialist republic. And I think the BJP government is being definitely anti-secular. It is being blatantly communal, with the Prime Minister making hate speeches. It has definitely been anti-socialism, because it does favor a culture of, first among
Thank you,
favorites in
Mr.
terms
Jha.
of
We'll
crony
be coming back to
capitalism.
you,
And it is
with all this
anti-democratic.
discussion in a bit. Remember, this is day 2 of the Lok Sabha, 18th Lok Sabha. There are many highlights today. In fact, the spotlight is on the Speaker's election that is going to take place tomorrow. The nominations would get filed by noon today. So clearly a lot of action that is anticipated, but time for a short break. We'll be back in a bit. Okay. So welcome back. The Prime Minister, in fact, has tweeted today is a day to pay homage to all those great men and women who resisted the emergency. The dark days of emergency remind us of how the Congress party subverted basic freedoms and trampled over the Constitution of India, which every Indian respects greatly. This is the Prime Minister tweeting today, posting on X today. This is a day after he spoke about how the Constitution basically, was in some ways violated during the emergency time, and it remains to be seen how this is going to play out politically. Of course, the BJP is going to have a protest of sorts there, including, against the DMK government for the Kalaikuruchi tragedy in which 58 people died. Going to Saravanan first of the DMK. Sir, how do you think the BJP's political messaging is going to work out in the south of India? We know that the party did not did not win any seat in the state of Tamil Nadu. Do you think any of this has any resonance in the state of Tamil Nadu? Because the Prime Minister has been focusing on the state and making it clear that, a lot of it for him is not political, it's ideological and civilizational.
Yeah, see, with regard to the state of Tamil Nadu, it's just empty rhetoric is not going to work. That is what the Prime Minister has done when it comes to the state of Tamil Nadu. See, we have a lot of grievances. We had a lot of grievances. There were 2 devastating floods. The Prime Minister did not visit the state of Tamil Nadu. He did not release the funds sought by the Chief Minister. He did not release the funds for the metro rail. And they promised an AIMS hospital for the state of Tamil Nadu. And just 18 crores have been allocated in the last 8 years. So when they don't deliver on the promises, when they don't do anything for the people of Tamil Nadu, and in the Kaveri issue, they blatantly supported Karnataka. The union ministers made statements supporting the state of Karnataka. They know, see, that's what, when you choose a state over the other, when you are not unbiased, people of Tamil Nadu are going to reject you. And the ideology, see, in the state of Tamil Nadu, the Dravidian ideology is deeply rooted. And BJP is a very strong Hindutva ideology. They wanted to push their ideology first, and it is not working. You'll have to do something tangible for the people of Tamil Nadu. Without that, whatever the Prime Minister does, how many times he may visit the state of Tamil Nadu, whatever antics they try, it's not going to work in the state of Tamil Nadu. That a party you're talking about, the Kalaikuruchi, and you were asking, yes, we admit, the state admits it ought not to have happened. And we take the responsibility of the incident, and we will rectify that situation. But is this the problem only in the state of Tamil Nadu? And the BJP for India writes a letter to Mr. Mallikarjuna Kharge that do something for this. We are asking in 2022, Gujarat, 43 people were dead in a huge tragedy. What happened? Did the BJP write letter to Mr. Modi? Or whom did they write a letter? Who resigned from Gujarat cabinet? Did the excise minister resign or the PUW minister resign? See, you have set a template. You have not done anything, and suddenly all of a thing you come and say, oh, you have to do this, you have to do that. It's not going to work in the state of Tamil Nadu. That is the problem. And the leaders of the BJP, they don't understand the people's feelings. You have to support them. You'll have to respect those feelings. But whatever they speak, it is out of reality. That is the problem. That is why with this same policies, with the same set of ideas, BJP will not make any headway in the state of Tamil Nadu.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
You're audible.
Yeah, we can hear you.
We are talking about the kind of political flashpoint that is being played out with respect to the Constitution. Today is the 50th anniversary of the emergency. The BJP has made it a political issue. In fact, a lot of BJP leaders, including the Prime Minister, did emerge in some ways from the anti-emergency protests that took place in 1975. In fact, the BJP has also made it the central point of of the debate in which it is accused of violating the Constitution. Remember, the Constitution and the danger, the threats to it being violated was an important part of the Lok Sabha campaign of 2024. To you, Mr. Sumantraman, how do you think something like this plays out politically? What kind of impact does it have on people of the country? Because, this is clearly a lot of political back and forth with the Congress saying that it's the BJP that has imposed an emergency, but it's something that's not been declared. But the BJP saying that emergency of 1975 is the biggest black mark on Indian democracy. And of course, the device numbers in the Indian Parliament, this of course has a different flavor to it, isn't it?
I think that, despite the best efforts of the media to sort of hype this issue, it will have zero impact across the country because, quite frankly, people want to get on with their lives. I mean, this constant living in the past and, harking back now, at least from the days of the Mughals and so on, we have now reached 1975, which is some progress in some ways. But this constant living in the past is not going to go down well with the people. People are looking for their livelihoods, for their jobs. They want to discuss, how they can get ahead in life. And, I don't for a moment believe that this will have any kind of impact at all. I think it's probably one of those issues that is taken up more as a kind of a distraction or a diversion because the government is facing the heat on the exam fiasco. And something, needs to be pulled out of the hat. And the media is willing to, happy to oblige in amplifying the voice of whatever the BJP says. And therefore, they attempt to push this as a narrative. This will have zero, Z-E-R-O, impact across the country. Most of the country was not born. Yes, of course, the emergency was an awful mistake. And the Congress party has apologized publicly for that. Has said that it should not have happened. Everything has actually been done. Now, to go back to 1975 and try to make it as an issue with the people, I don't think anybody is buying this and people will see through it. I think this whole attempt to assume that people are fools and can be manipulated with whatever the media says, I think the election results have clearly demonstrated that that can't be done. At least not fully.
Right. Final comments from all our panelists. Mr. Nigam, last word from you, sir, clearly, because if you look at all the ministers, I'm looking at Mr. Rijiju's tweet. He's saying that, this marks the day India lost its freedom again under the emergency, and it's the darkest chapter of our Indian history. So clearly, this is, the BJP trying to present a very strong counter to the Congress party. Do you think something like this works? But of course, it's also important to remember the mistakes that our prime ministers and our governments in the past have made, isn't it?
Vasudha, in fact, emergency was the darkest chapter of India's modern history, and it should have been a part of India's curriculum, both school and college, so that generations after generations remember it, and such kind of a mistake should not be repeated any time in the future. It should have been a reminder. Now, let me tell you, the way the parliament should function now, sometimes the opposition, helps the governing ruling party in a way by walking out or abstaining. Reason being, the voting on the bills takes place on the basis of members present and voting, majority of members present and voting. but the opposition wants to look as if opposing the government also, but somehow helps the government also in passing the bills. Therefore, you walk out and it brings down the numbers and bills are very easily passed. And this has been happening when the BJP was also in opposition. So this is how democracy functions. You appear to be in opposition, but also help in passing the bills. This is how, and I believe we require a constructive discussion in the parliament. Walking out is not the solution, so that the input, the other side also comes into the bills, and the proper bills is finally, passed, so that when they are challenged in Supreme Court, they become they are not set aside or set as ultra vires the constitution or beyond the scope of jurisdiction. So therefore, we have to be very
Mr.
constructive.
Saravanan of the DMK, you heard Mr. Nigam out, and the DMK in the last election has emerged as the most politically potent ideological counter to the BJP in the south of India. You have swept the state yet again. So this is clearly it of course will give a lot of confidence to the party. Will there be a change in your parliament strategy from now on, and what are your expectations from the centre? Because clearly DMK will also be targeted for your failures in governance, like we saw in Kalaikuruchi. So is it also time for your party to ensure that governance is top notch when it comes to Tamil Nadu?
See, Tamil Nadu governance is top notch. There may be few aberrations which will be set right. See, the BJP, if you look at the last parliament session, the MPs from the DMK were the conscience keepers of this country. We opposed all the anti-people legislations. We opposed CAA, we opposed Farm Law, we opposed Triple Talaq, we opposed the Jammu Kashmir abrogation bill, we opposed everything. And we all know what happened to the Farm Laws and CAA. We have opposed, and we have seen what kind of opposition it generated across the country. So now the entire opposition, we have a strong voice. So we will not be a lone voice, and we will have more strength. And the BJP, which was ruling by arrogance, has to rule by consensus now. We'll have to see, and in the Rajya Sabha, they don't have the numbers.
Okay.
So without consensus, nothing is going to happen. Okay. And I want to just want to make an important point.
Shaina, would you like to respond to that?
Just a minute, 10 seconds.
Yes.
10 seconds.
Sir,
10 seconds
out of time, so...
10 seconds, just 10 seconds. Just a very important
just
thing.
10 seconds are left, so let Shaina have this, please. Yes.
BJP is destroying the ecology. The Great Nicobar project, 10 lakh trees are going to be cut. We will be focusing on that. We will want the BJP government to roll back that.
Closing remarks, because clearly... Clearly, there needs to be, more dialogue. Of course, more outreach. Is that something that you're sort of preparing for?
What conscience is Mr. Saravanan speaking about? Is it the conscience of being corrupt? Please don't forget the past. I don't want to get into the past. I just want to talk about the future. And Vasudha, enough of this theatrics, optics, holding the constitution in your hand. Every upright Indian, every parliamentarian, irrespective of party, knows that the Bharatiya Janata Party and the NDA have been the ones who celebrate Constitution Day, have been the ones who celebrate the largest constitution of the world, and amendments are only by accepting every single suggestion made, as well as discussion, deliberation and majority, because in a democracy, jo jeeta wohi Sikandar. For all these critics of Prime Minister Modi, I want to say, please look back, put your hand on your conscience and see the 10 years of the regime of the NDA, and please be accepting that the 5 years needs to be the collective consciousness of the country and not the consciousness of individuals. And that, if you put above all, then it is always nation first, party next, individual last.
Last 10 years, there was no debate in the parliament.
Thank you, Shaina and C, for joining us, all of you for joining us on the show. Clearly.
Thank you.
Continue, Mr. Saravanan.
Yeah, see, that's what. There was no discussion at all in the last 10 years. The bills were rammed in the parliament. Now that's not going to happen. We are very happy that the BJP will not continue with this my way or the highway attitude.
Sir, you just think of your theatrics, optics, photo optics and narrative which are trying to...
We all know you are
We are not interested. We are only interested in working, sir.
Before election, you will say we will change the constitution.
As an
now you come and bow down before the constitution.
We have
that
never
is the victory of the
ever
people.
said that. This is the difference between reality and optics. Please don't play this false narrative. People know the truth. And maybe that's why they have chosen to repose faith in Honorable Prime Minister Modi. For all of you who are sitting only on the fence and giving this kind of false narrative, I would want to say just one piece of advice. In a democracy, victory and defeat, in an exam, victory and your percentages cannot always be 100%. But even if you get a percentage which gives you the mandate, please enable your own voters by constructive talk on a vision plan and not just these photo optics that you play time to time to hog the media limelights, because that can never be an agenda. That can only be a temporary thing.
And thank you, Shaina, for joining us. Important break now. Yesterday, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh has spoken to leaders of all parties of the India alliance, and the calls went on till late night, and this was to convince them to agree that a speaker is chosen through consensus. That is what sources have told my colleague Maria Shakil, and this is an important update on the speaker's election. That is the spotlight of this session, expected to happen tomorrow, June 26th. The speaker, like we understand, will be chosen with consensus. That seems to be the efforts that the BJP is making here. Maria Shakil joins me with more details on this. Maria, what do we know about this call that Rajnath Singh has made to India allies yesterday?
Yes. So Rajnath Singh, so Vasudha, that meeting that was happening, in that meeting, what we are being told is that there were also Rajnath Singh and other leaders, including B.L. Santosh, who were present at Home Minister Amit Shah's residence. Rajnath Singh ji did speak to India Bloc members to communicate that there is a need for consensus so that they do not, field another candidate for the speaker's name. What has been communicated to Rajnath Singh, we really do not know at the moment. Because if Rajnath Singh has not communicated the name of the speaker that is there on the NDA Bloc's mind, then it remains to be seen what has been the response. But having said that, today around 12 noon, Vasudha, before that, the speaker has to file his nomination papers. And if that doesn't happen, then certainly it will be a matter of concern. And the NDA certainly is hoping that there would be a consensus on whosoever their name is, because they have the numbers, but they would certainly want the opposition India Bloc members to be on board. If not, then the India Bloc could be given a deputy speaker's chair, is the sense that we are getting. But yes, we have to get more clarity on that.